Yep, we're shared.
All right. Well, if anyone's out there, whether you're watching this live on LinkedIn or if you're joining us on Zoom or watching the recording after the fact, thanks for spending the time with us. My name is Rachael Burns. I'm going to introduce my co-host here in just a moment, but we're going to be talking today about the divorce professionals that you need on your divorce team. And we like to call it your divorce dream team. So, again, my name is Rachael Burns. I'm a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst, and I work with divorcing women getting their finances back on track. My firm is called True Worth Financial Planning, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Jason Levoy. Jason is a recovering attorney turned divorce coach. He's based in Jersey, and he is going to be speaking to us in just a minute about his role. So thanks for joining, Jason.
Hey, Rachel, glad to be here. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming or watching.
Yeah. And so just to give you an idea what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about what the team approach to divorce is and why it's valuable. Then we're going to go into a couple of roles that are on the divorce team. One is the divorce coach, which is what Jason is. And then what is a CDFA, which is what I am. We're going to talk a little bit more about those roles. And then we'll talk about some next steps going forward for you. So to start off with, we're going to talk about the team approach. So what is the team approach? Basically, it's when you assemble a team of professionals who each specialize in one aspect of the divorce process. So some people will just have an attorney, or maybe they don't even have an attorney. You know, sometimes they have one professional that they're working with in their divorce, and they're kind of expecting that professional to do all of these functions, but really that professional has kind of their area of expertise. So what we talk about in the team approach is having multiple professionals. So you have an attorney specializing in the legal process. You have a financial person that's specializing in the financial process. You have a therapist that's specializing in the mental health stuff. So you have these different roles. Everyone serves a purpose on the team. And why would we want to do that? It might seem like that would complicate things, like that would cost a bunch of money to have all these professionals, but in reality, having this approach can save you some money, and I'll explain to you why. So I know a lot of clients who they've just been working with an attorney, and they call their attorney whenever they have any question, whether it's a question about the financial, decisions that they're making, if it's a question about whatever, or even if they just want to vent and talk about their feelings, they call their attorney and the meter is running. So they're being charged for every minute that they're on the phone with their attorney, and they're going to their attorney for things that aren't really related to the attorney's area of expertise. And so when you go to your therapist for therapy, your therapist is going to charge a lot less generally than your divorce attorney. Or if you go to your financial expert, they're going to be charging their rates. You're not like going to the super expensive attorney for all of these other things that other professionals can help with. It can also save time. So for the same reason, like I just mentioned, when you have each professional working just within their area of expertise, generally you're a little bit efficient. So if you ask your attorney to value a pension plan, it's probably going to take them quite a bit longer, if they can do it at all, than it would someone like me who does that all the time. You're going to get better quality help, again, because everyone is staying in their lane, so to speak. So you're going to your attorney with your legal questions. They are the legal expert. They spent years and years going to law school to learn about the law. So you're going to them for that piece. But then with the financial stuff, you're going to someone who specializes just in the finances. And when you go to the specialist, you're going to get, I think, better quality help. And then another benefit is that it's a more holistic view of your divorce. So your divorce is a complicated process. It impacts many different parts of your life. It's not just a legal thing. It's not just a financial thing. This is like a big complicated thing, and all these areas kind of intersect with each other. And by having this team approach, you have a more holistic view. So you're looking at all these different areas at the same time and how they interact with each other.
Hey, Rachel, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, of course.
Because I wanted to add to that slide. I share a story a lot with people when I'm doing these types of presentations and even my clients. I say when I was practicing as a divorce attorney, I would always tell my clients I would talk with them on the phone or in person for as long as they want, even if they're just venting and kind of talking to me in a more therapeutic way, which, like you said, should be directed towards a professional therapist, because I wasn't a professional therapist. But I would talk with them and, talk it out as much as they wanted. But I said, don't complain when you get the bill at the end of the month, because I'm billing you at my attorney rate and we're not doing attorney stuff. So what Rachel said is true, that even though you're dealing with more people and you have a team approach, the idea is, and it works over the long run, you actually keep your legal bill down, your overall divorce cost down, because different people bill at different rates and flat rates, not hourly rates. But even all that aside, let's say your therapist charge the same rate as your attorney, you should still go to your therapist for therapy related stuff, because that's the right professional advice that you need, not from your attorney who's not a licensed therapist. So I think the message is, like, go to the right person to get the right help. And that's, you'll do much better that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the members on your divorce dream team. So probably the most obvious one is your attorney, and you don't have to have an attorney. If you even people who are able to work it out amicably and have a relatively uncomplicated situation can a lot of times benefit from having an attorney. I mean, it doesn't have to be, just because you have an attorney doesn't mean it needs to be this adversarial thing. But again, the attorney is going to guide you through the legal process. They're going to advocate for you from a legal perspective. You might also have a mediator, and I hear a lot of misconceptions about mediators. Mediators are not attorneys. Some mediators are also attorneys, but when you're going to a mediator, you are going to a neutral third party who is not advocating for you or your spouse. They're simply there to kind of facilitate the discussions and help you guys come up with an agreement. They're not there to tell you this is what you need to do from a legal standpoint. So sometimes people go to a mediator and then they're like disappointed because they're not getting legal advice. That's not what a mediator is there for. It's just they're there to facilitate the process. And you can have a mediator and an attorney. And I think that's a great combination, because you go to mediation, you try to, work as much of it out as you can, but then you have an attorney who's kind of looking over things and making sure that everything looks good before you sign off on something. The next member is a divorce coach, which Jason's going to go into in a lot more depth here in just a second, but basically a divorce coach helps manage expectations through the divorce process, helps educate you, and helps support you in a variety of different ways that he'll go into in just a moment. Another member is a CDFA, or a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. That's what I am. And I'll go into that in just a little bit as well, but that's someone who specializes in the financial aspects of divorce. And a CDFA does not take the place of an attorney, nor does, not the other way around. A CDFA is just someone that can add some financial analysis to, those decisions. Another role is an accountant. There's a lot of tax issues that can come up during a divorce, depending on the complexity of your situation. So it might be worth looping in an accountant. An accountant just specializes in the taxes. A lot of people confuse an accountant with a financial advisor, but an accountant can help you with the tax issues. Also, if you think that your spouse is hiding something, hiding money or understating the value of certain assets, if you think that there's some sort of financial funny business going on, a forensic accountant can come in and help with that specific situation. And then also a therapist. And we think this is a really, really important role on your team, because this is a highly emotional process and you need to, take care of yourself, but also you don't want your emotions seeping into these other areas and impacting your decision-making ability. So you really want to be working that stuff out with someone who is an expert in mental health so that you can make really good decisions in those other areas as well. So Jason, you want to tell us a little bit more about what a divorce coach does?
Yes, thank you, Rachel. So hi again, everybody. In case you missed it or you came on late, my name is Jason Levoy. I'm a former divorce attorney who now turned divorce coach. And basically what I do as a coach is I help you find the right attorney for your situation, because not every attorney is right for every divorce, right? Not every divorce requires the pit bull or celebrity, high profile and expensive attorney. So I help people do that. And then I help them identify other people for their team that we're talking about today, like Rachel and accountants and other people. And then once you have your team, it doesn't stop there. That's just the beginning. Like Rachel said, I help manage expectations. I help you manage the emotional aspect of going through the divorce process. As a coach, I'm like your little advocate on your shoulder. And I'm there with you to keep you focused, to keep you organized throughout the process. As an attorney, I coach from an attorney's point of view. And so I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but I don't give legal advice because I'm not representing you directly, but I know what your attorney needs and wants from you as a client. And I know what the court wants from you as a divorce judge. And so I help you stay prepared, stay organized, focused, and in between big ticket items, like going to court, filing motions, that type of thing, you're working with me more so than your attorney, which again, that's how you keep your legal bill down. Because as a coach, I'm all flat fee based. So basically I'm helping you focus on the business of getting divorced and managing everything else along the way. Right, we can switch. So what can a divorce coach help with? A lot of people, might have heard of a divorce coach. A lot of people haven't heard of a divorce coach. And so they're not exactly sure what it is and what we do. So let me tell you. So as a divorce coach, one of the things I do is I help you find, again, like I said, the right attorney. Every divorce is different. I always said divorces are like snowflakes. There's no two alike. And no matter what your friends or family members say, and I know they're always in your ear and they come from a good place, but they're not the type of objective professional that Rachel and I are talking about today. Your divorce dream team are of people that exclude family and friends, okay? And I would even go as far to say, Rachel, I don't know if you would agree with me with this, but even if you have friends or family who are professionals, whether attorneys, therapists, I think I'm not talking about them either, because the key word is objective, right? If you have friends and family, they're not objective, they're subjective, right? They want the best for you, they care, and they should. But when you're looking at divorce and getting through it, you want an objective point of view so you can make the best decision. Would you agree with that, Rachel?
Absolutely. Yeah. The
Okay.
Unbiased opinion is what you need. You don't want someone who's so in your corner that they're going to be like, yeah, I agree with everything you say. You need someone who's going to give it to you straight.
Right. I always say the good, the bad, the ugly. That's what I do as a coach. I give you the good, the bad, the ugly, because sugarcoating things doesn't help. And it's only going to make things worse later on when you realize the bad decision that maybe you made. So once you have your team assembled, as a coach, I help you manage that team, the relationship with all these professionals, mainly the attorney, because as a former attorney, well, I'm still an attorney, but as a former divorce attorney, I understand what they need from you as a client, what they want to help them do their job. And it amazes me how often people stress about their relationship with their own attorney. I mean, I had no idea it was as bad as it is until I stopped practicing law and became a coach. But now I understand it, and now I help people do that. So people are afraid to contact their own attorney because they don't want to get billed. But then how else are you going to communicate with your attorney, right? So it's a double-edged sword. So just as a quick example of how I help as a coach, you may come to me with a problem and you're not sure what to do and who to talk to. So you would talk to me first as your coach. And let's say we talk 45 minutes. Again, I'm not billing hourly, so that's fine. And we get the issue down and specified to one or two key points, right? So then at that point, I will say, okay, these are the questions. Here are the two questions that you should ask your attorney today, right? And then you would contact your attorney, ask those two questions, and then you're not spending 45 minutes on with your attorney to get to the same place. So from an efficiency standpoint, that's how I can help. I help you kind of figure out exactly what the problem is and which professional you need to be talking to at that moment, and even the questions that you should be asking that professional. Because sometimes you don't even know what the question is that you should be asking. Because again, most people going through a divorce, this is the first time you're doing it, and you're not familiar with the process, nor should you be, and it's overwhelming. It's a contested divorce is a traumatic event. So I help manage the relationship all throughout the process with all your professionals. Somebody once called me a project manager, and I said, oh yeah, I guess that's pretty much what I do. It's not, like a really fancy title, project manager, but then somebody the other day just called me as a divorce coach. They said, oh, you're like the quarterback of the team. And I kind of like that better because, I like sports, and the quarterback is an important position. So I like to call myself a quarterback. But one of the other things I can help do is I keep you focused and prepared. Again, from an attorney standpoint, your attorney needs you to be prepared. And oftentimes the client is not, and that causes problems and causes things to be more expensive. So I can help you prepare for divorce. I know what documents your attorney wants from you. I know how they want them presented. I know how a court wants them presented. And so I help you with that. Stay focused, keep your eye on the prize. And then if you do all that, like we said at the beginning, in the end, that will keep your legal bill down, because while you're using more people, you're not using the same person at the high hourly rate. All right, we can switch. So some of the common questions that people often ask that I'm going to try to answer for you today are these. Do I need a coach for my divorce? Well, you don't need anybody. And like Rachel said a few minutes ago, you don't really need an attorney. You can, and people do get divorced all the time without attorneys. You're not guaranteed a right to an attorney for divorce, because it's not like a criminal situation where you might, end up in jail. So an attorney is a luxury. Anybody that you can get on your team is a luxury, but I would say it's strongly encouraged that you have not only an attorney, but some of these other members that we're talking about, like a coach, like a financial analyst, and others. Now, every divorce doesn't need the same number of experts, I would say, and it doesn't need the same experts. Every divorce, again, it's like a snowflake. So you cater it to your situation, but I refer to it as the trifecta of awesomeness. The base, the bedrock three people, the pillars of your divorce team in almost any divorce ideally should be an attorney, a coach, and a financial analyst, because every divorce will cover issues dealing with, obviously legal and financial, right? So, and again, as the coach, I help bring all that together and make sure it's running as smooth as possible. So what's the difference between a coach and an attorney? Well, as an attorney, I'm representing you. I'm your legal advocate. If I had to file papers in court for your divorce, I'm filing them under my name as your attorney. If we have to go to court for a motion or any other thing, a trial, I'm going to court with you as your attorney. I'm giving you legal advice. As a coach, I'm not doing any of those things. As a coach, I'm kind of behind the scenes. And I always tell clients, you can, some of my clients don't tell their attorneys they're working with me. Some of them do. And it's just totally the comfort level that suits you. But most of my work is behind the scenes. I don't go to court with you. I don't file papers with my name on it. But I'm there talking to you behind the scenes, advising you, not giving you, quote, legal advice, because I'm in New Jersey and technically I can't give you legal advice anywhere outside of New Jersey. But what I do is I focus on the generalities of the divorce process. So no matter where you're living, every state goes through the same thing: discovery, negotiation, custody, parenting issues. Those are all universal to every divorce. So I focus on that and I help you through that. And again, mainly I'm helping you manage your relationships with your attorney and others, so they're going as smoothly as possible. What can a divorce coach do for me? Well, kind of like everything I've just been talking about. A lot of it is intangible stuff, right? It's not like a situation where I'll use like an investment analogy where I'll say, you give me $100, I'll turn it into $1,000 in 2 months. It's not like that. The value you get from working with a coach like myself is your stress level will be way down, because you'll have an outlet to contact, again, who's not charging you at an hourly rate, whenever you have questions. And in a contested divorce, you always have questions. You don't even know half the questions that you're going to have. And you don't know when you're going to have those questions. So, I always say, like, a contested divorce is a roller coaster. You have your shares of ups and downs. And I'm there throughout all of it. And I'm usually one of your first contact points whenever there's an issue. You would reach out to me, and then I would help talk it out with you and then direct you on who I think you should talk to next, whether it's somebody like Rachael or your attorney. And every situation is different. So it's not a black and white kind of a situation. And I'm there whenever you need to talk. Flexibility is key with being a divorce coach. We schedule different appointments with each other, but if things happen in between, I'm flexible and I'm available. So that makes people feel much more better. I manage your stress levels. That's the biggest tangible thing, I guess I could say, for what I do as a coach. And then another common question is, do I still need an attorney if I have a coach? Well, again, we do different things. So we wear different hats. The attorney is representing you legally, right? They're going to court. They're filing paperwork with their name on it on your behalf. I'm not doing that. I'm behind the scenes helping you out and managing everything behind the curtain, so to speak. So there are two different functions. So ideally, again, the three bedrock pillars of a divorce team would be an attorney, a coach, and a financial analyst. And then you may need more, but those are the three, I would say, pillars. So it's not, do you need an attorney if you have a coach, or do you need a coach if you have an attorney? It's ideal, right? It'll make things go better for you in ways that you don't know yet. That's the best way I can kind of describe it. And then, of course, everybody wants to know, how much does a coach cost? Well, everybody's different. I can tell you how much I cost, but it's, again, all flat fee based. And I do that purposely so that I'm not another hourly stressor, so that you can contact me. You're not worrying about, oh my God, if I talk to Jason for 15 minutes, he's going to bill me, $80. It doesn't work like that. And I don't want it to work like that. And, attorneys do that. And that's just the way attorney land is structured, and it's fine. It's the nature of the beast. But I'm here to help in a way that, again, is to relieve your stress and make you calmer and not hesitant to reach out. That's the last thing any of us want as experts on your team, is for you to hesitate to reach out to us, right? Because that's why we're here. We're here to help you. And the only way we can help you is if you tell us what's going on. So a coach, as a flat fee, I cost a fraction of what an attorney costs. So that's the point. That's the benefit. And for that flat fee, you get access to me along the way. And again, you know what you're getting, you know how much it costs. And then when you contact your attorney, you're managing that billing as best as possible. So I hope that helped clarify. All right.
All right. Well, now let's talk about what a CDFA is. Thank you, Jason, for sharing about the coaching role. So a certified divorce financial analyst is basically it's a financial expert who guides you through the major financial decisions that happen during a divorce that's going to impact your financial future in a major way. And there's a lot of different things that they can do for you. So I would say the most common thing that I do for clients, and the most important thing that I do for clients, is when they come to, if they're trying to come to an agreement about how they're going to split assets, and they're like, okay, this is our potential split that we're looking at. I help them look at that and determine, is that fair? Is that roughly equal? Does that work for you in the long-term and the short-term, I just look at I do some really extreme detailed analysis on that potential split so that they know exactly what the consequences of that split would be. Because a lot of times it doesn't seem, they'll be looking at something and they'll think, oh, this looks equal. You take this account that's worth $100,000. I take this account that's $100,000. But in reality, those two things might be so different and they don't realize it. Maybe one thing is not taxable and one thing is pre-tax. That can make a huge difference on the money that you actually end up with. So I help look at that. I help them reassess their financial goals. So when you're married, you might have had some goals together, but when you are now on your own, likely it's going to look very, very different. And you need to spend some time reassessing what those goals are, because you need to know what you're trying to work for. Like, what are you trying to accomplish with your finances? What do you want your life to look like going forward? And how will your finances support that? So we need to, before we can figure out, okay, what do we need to do with all the individual pieces? We need to know what your new goals are. I can also help develop a budget. So when you get divorced and you go from, supporting one household with a set amount of income, then you go to supporting two households, typically with that same amount of income. So there's usually some changes involved to the budget. So we look at, what is your income going to look like going forward? What kind of support will you likely get for child support or spousal support? We'll look at any other forms of income they have coming in. And then we look at their expenses and we look at, okay, what are the new costs that are going to arise now that you're divorced? Maybe, your spouse was the one doing yard maintenance and updates on the house, and now you need to pay someone to do that. We look at how all of your expenses are going to change, where you're going to live, how that's going to impact your budget, if there's anything that we need to kind of tweak with the budget to make that work out. I can also help with when people are looking at what they own together and they're trying to assign a value to certain things that are hard to value. So for example, some people have pensions. They're not as common as they used to be, but a pension is the type of retirement plan that's typically kind of hard to figure out what it's worth. They're all different. They're all complicated. And I can help figure out, okay, this is what this pension is worth today. And then we can figure out a plan for how we're going to split that up. I can also determine how much of an asset is marital property versus separate property. So for example, if someone was working many years for a company before they got married, and maybe they earned a portion of their pension before they were married, and then they worked for several more years after they were married, only a portion of that pension is going to be considered marital property and will be subject to that split. So I help with all of those financial, any financial questions that come up, any major financial decisions. I can support those decisions with the data and the analysis so that you can make the best decisions going forward. Common questions that I hear is, do I need a CDFA if I already have an attorney or a mediator? And like Jason said, they do very different things. So one does not take the place of the other. Really, these things are very complementary to each other. You might just have a CDFA, you might just have an attorney, but they do very different things. So I actually prefer working with clients who are working with an attorney, because I see people trying to save money by going the mediation route if they're not necessarily a good candidate for mediation, or if they're not using a mediator or an attorney. I think it helps to have someone guiding them through that part of the process. I help guide through the financial part, but I don't give any legal advice. I don't sit down with you and your ex and try to work things out. I just do the financial analysis for one party, and that's the woman. I only work with women. So really, if you're working with an attorney or a mediator or both, it's great to work with a CDFA as well, because you're going to have all those different areas covered. Another question I hear is, do I need a CDFA if I already have a financial advisor? So I spent many years as a, what I would call traditional financial advisor, and a regular financial advisor does different things than a CDFA does. So a generic financial advisor helps with investment management and maybe financial planning, but they don't have the expertise specific to the financials in divorce. And the financial decisions that are made during divorce are very specific. They're very unique. They're very complicated. That's not part of the normal education of a financial advisor. Like, you do not want to go to someone who does not have the divorce expertise for help with this specific part of your finances. You really need to have someone that has training in all the things that happen during divorce, and how that impacts the rest of your financial future. So I work with a lot of clients who have a financial advisor, and I just do the CDFA work during their divorce. I'm also a regular financial advisor, so I do financial planning for people after the divorce is through as well. But for that mid-divorce time, you really need to be working with the CDFA if you're going to be looking for financial help. Another question I hear is, when do I hire a CDFA? So at what part of the divorce process do you bring in a CDFA? And really, a CDFA can help you no matter what part of the process that you're in. So even if you have not filed, even if you haven't told anyone that you want to get divorced, a CDFA can help you in those early stages. So for example, a CDFA can help you get your financial data organized, because during the divorce, as soon as you start the divorce process, you're going to have to disclose all of your financial details anyway. So a CDFA can help you gather that information, but it also helps you make some decisions about how you want to proceed. I meet a lot of people who want to file for divorce, but are scared because they don't know what the financial impact would be. And so I can help them understand, okay, this is your financial situation, and this is how the financial process of your divorce works. And this is what outcomes you would likely see afterwards. And so that kind of gives them the information that they need to make some decisions at that point. You can also hire CDFAs when you're in the midst of your divorce. And that's a really great time to bring in that extra support, because think of all the decisions that you're making as part of your divorce. How are we going to split up the assets? How are we going to split up the debt? Am I going to be paying support? Am I going to be receiving support? Where are we going to be living? What are we going to do with the house that we own together? Where am I going to move? All of these financial decisions, I can provide the financial analysis that supports those decisions so that you know that you're making the right decision. And then after your divorce is another great time to work with a CDFA, because they can take, once the divorce is done, then okay, this is what I have to work with. This is the settlement that I have. This is what things are going to look like. Now you can start doing some long-term planning. And that's really important, because after your divorce, you're kind of starting over. You have new goals. You have, your financial situation has changed, and you need to reassess your goals and figure out what you need to do in order to stay on track to meet those goals. And a CDFA can help you with that, because they deal with that part of the process even after the divorce. And the last question I hear is, how do I find a CDFA? So if you just go and Google CDFA, you're going to find all sorts of unrelated things, because a lot of organizations share that acronym. So CDFA stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. You can Google Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, and you can find several ones in your area. But what I recommend that you do is go to the IDFA website. It's the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts, IDFA, and that is the organization that maintains that designation. And they have this directory of all these CDFAs that you can go through. You can look up ones in your area. You can look up ones that specialize in whatever it is that you're looking for. So that's a great resource for you. So now that we know what the divorce dream team looks like, and we know what a divorce coach is, and we know what a CDFA is, and we know how those types of professionals can help you, we wanted to follow up with just a couple of final tips. And the first one, I would say, don't let emotions guide your decisions. This is a highly, highly emotional time. It's your mental bandwidth is so stretched already by just the emotional part that it's hard to make these really important decisions, these very practical decisions that impact the rest of your life. But you do need to remove the emotions from that decision making and be rational about these decisions, because these are going to impact the rest of your life. You really need to make the right decision. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. There is this whole huge community of divorce professionals that can help you with anything that you can think of. I've met divorce organizers who specialize in helping people reorganize their house after a divorce. There's like people that can help you with anything. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help, because likely there's someone who does exactly what you need them to do, and you can find people that are affordable. So don't be scared to reach out for help. Jason, you want to take the other two?
Sure. Of course, we want to all be mindful of costs. Divorce, a contested divorce, oftentimes is not the cheapest thing in the world. And everybody wants to kind of, bargain hunt, and I understand it and I get it. But there are some things that you don't want to, just because you can get something for the cheapest price doesn't mean it's the best for you. The only thing, and this is because I'm a guy and I use tools, so I'm going to use a tool analogy, but if you go to, Harbor Freight for a wrench or something, that is probably going to be of a cheaper quality than something you can get at Home Depot or another hardware store or name brand type wrench, right? And Harbor Freight's known for being very reasonable and cheap, and they're good for some things, but not for others. So your professionals that you're looking for your divorce, I would say, are kind of, look at it the same way. You don't want to necessarily go to Harbor Freight for your divorce team, because you're only going to go through this, I hope, once. And if you make the wrong decisions, for example, if you hire the wrong attorney, and then you pay that attorney $8,000, and then only at the end to find out that they're the wrong attorney for you and they've messed things up, and now you're 6 months or longer into your divorce, and then you kind of have to backtrack and start over with a new attorney, and you're starting from scratch. So you just wasted all that money. You don't want to make the wrong mistake hiring the right professionals to represent you. So that's why having this team around you is so critical, and you want the right team. So obviously, I always tell people, go on consultations with more than one person. That's critical. They have to be a good fit for you, not only professionally, personality wise, they're a member of your team. So again, you don't want to be stressing about the people on your team, and you're mindful of the costs, but try to look at the big picture of the divorce and how much that's going to cost you. And you might pay a little more upfront to save a lot more later. That's kind of how I would couch that.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Jason, I just want to jump in real quick. So being mindful of costs, it's good to not cut corners, because it could end up costing you more in the long run, but also think about the costs of certain actions that you're thinking of taking. So if I see people who are fighting over something that's of relatively low value, but they spend more fighting over the asset than the asset is actually worth. So when people are mad and they want to fight, think about the costs. What is it actually going to cost me to do this? And is this even worth it? So I think the other way around, it makes sense too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Rachel. That's the whole other side to that coin, which I'm glad you brought up. And just to add to that part, I always tell people when they're negotiating and they're fighting over something, whether it's a couch or even, parenting time to a degree, everything has an emotional value to you. And people don't often think of it like that. But it's true, it does. And everybody's value for something is different. So that's why it's specific to you. Only you know what something emotional value is to you. I won't know that, Rachel won't know that, and your attorney won't know that. Only you can know that. But there's a value there. And so I always tell clients, figure out what that value is. And then you have to decide, like Rachel said, is it worth it to, spend X dollars through your attorney? And then how long will that take? how many months down the line before the court even hears that if you have to go to court over it. Sometimes you do, but you just want to understand and make decisions intentionally. So you're making the best decision for you. And then the last item, focusing on the long term. I always tell people you want to keep your eye on the big picture. Your divorce, it's like going through the trenches, and you're dealing with day-to-day issues, and sometimes you don't see what's far ahead, and you don't see or think about your post-divorce life. But I always try to keep people focused on, well, one day, no matter how bad it is, it'll be over, the divorce, and you're going to move on, and you're going to have a post-divorce life. Now, what's that going to look like? That's what you have to keep your eye on as you're going through the trenches of the divorce process. And that's going to guide your decisions throughout. I always work with people up front to kind of articulate what they want their post-divorce life to look like. And Rachel can help out with that too, financially. You may want a certain style of post-divorce life, but then the question is, can you afford it? But once you have that picture and you have those goals, that's going to guide every decision that you make during the process. Otherwise, you're just making decisions with no real, rational basis, and you might regret them later on. Rachel, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, and specific to the financial stuff, I see people making decisions they're more concerned about their short-term financial pictures. So they want the house or they want cash or whatever, but they're not thinking about the long term. They're not thinking about retirement or saving for kids' education, these things that happen way down the line. And so sometimes they end up shortchanging their future self by only focusing on the short-term stuff. So it's really important to keep this short and long-term perspective when you're making any decisions during that divorce.
Exactly. Like, for example, I've, as an attorney, I had a lot of cases where I would see people, both sides, spending their children's college educations fighting over the divorce, and who loses out? The kids. And that was never their intent. After the fact is that, when the children are ready to go to school and they have no money to send them to school, they're like, well, what happened? Well, you were fighting. That's what happened. And so you want to kind of just have that foresight, and having the right people on your team will give you that foresight, so you don't make those types of decisions, on an emotional basis that you may regret later.
Well, does anyone have any questions? I don't even know if I would be able to see if anyone had any questions, to be honest with you. So
we'll use our Mind Pro powers.
So if you have any questions, what I would recommend you do is comment on wherever you're watching this. If you're watching it from LinkedIn, you can comment on the recording afterwards, and then I'll be posting it. We'll be posting it all over the place to probably YouTube and what's it called? Oh my gosh, Instagram. So what I would recommend is post a comment. We'll go on and answer it. Feel free to reach out to either of us after the fact. You can reach me. I would recommend going to my website. It's trueworthfp.com. I'll include our contact information as well in the details, but contact me there. I'm happy to set up a free consultation call if people want to chat, or you can just reach out on LinkedIn or Instagram. And then Jason, how about you?
Yep, you can reach me at my website. It's jasonlevoy.com. And if you are just listening and you can't write it down, it's my last name, Levoy, V as in Victor. And my email is jason@jasonlevoy.com. So feel free to reach out to one or both of us with any questions. And thank you for taking the time and listening. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in. All righty. Bye.
Bye.